when we're clear on that why, no matter what, if the market goes up, down, sideways, it's just going to get through it with cash flow. Lack of resources actually ended up being like my resourcefulness was the best quality I could have. Picking up a phone, buying a list from Frank and Dave, and this
cold calling every single owner in the country.
That was it, man. Brainwash myself in the morning. When you're living in your buddy's, couch, and you don't have any money, you just gotta fake it, man, or just every day.
I act as if you fake it till you make it. Welcome back to Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I am thrilled that you're here. And I'm super excited about today's interview. I'm interviewing an old friend. We've known each other a long time. His name is Jeremiah Boucher, and Jeremiah has pretty much done it all. So we're going to have a really cool interview today because he's been in all sorts of different asset classes and is in all sorts of them. And we're going to talk about the differences between them: self-storage, mobile home parks, multifamily, small bay industrial. What am I forgetting? Office, retail, you name it, all of it. Yeah. Welcome, brother.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's so great to see you. It's been way too freaking long.
Yeah, love the spot.
So anyway, why don't you start by telling us, your story. By the way, Jeremiah's with Patriot Holdings, patriotholdings.com. And I know you live in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And so give us a background, where you came from, why real estate. I remember when we met, you were doing some really cool shit that I know you're still doing. So I want to talk about that too, but just take it away, brother.
Yeah. And we haven't talked in years, but I love when I was in a rough position. You were in a rough position. We met at a seminar. It was right after the crash.
Right.
And we were both trying to rebuild our empires.
Right.
And, you were a little bit older than me. So I was...
no, a lot older, but
yeah. But it's cool to be back here and share that. What a journey from that timeline. But
that's right.
Yeah.
That's about how long... it's been years, hasn't it?
It has. Over 10, almost 15 years.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So... started out as a little kid. I was always into sports. I thought I was going to actually do something in sports, and I was a slow little white guy, where that didn't go anywhere. So I had to find something that I channeled my energy into, because I have a lot of energy, as you know, and I want to compete. And it was rough. So I didn't like college. I played rugby for a little while. Didn't go anywhere with that. I tried bodybuilding, and I busted up my back, and I just felt lost in this entire process. And in the process, I got into a lot of trouble, because as you don't have a vision, as a man doesn't have a vision, man, you perish. So I was perishing.
Good book somewhere says that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was living it, man, and living in the belly of the beast in Vegas. I mean, it was it was really a time where I got it all out. And but I did realize, reading an old course, it was No Money Down, Carlton Sheets.
Oh, no kidding.
Found it in my dad's attic. He threw it aside. Yeah, and then I was working construction for him. So I grew up doing paving, hauling wheelbarrows, shovels, raking.
That's real work.
Oh, yeah, up in the Northeast every summer since I was 12. And he still does it today. We track our calories. He burns 5,000 calories a day behind a paver at 63.
Wow.
So that's my model. That's my, I don't feel good if I'm not working hard. I mean, and I always knew, seeing him, that even though my parents got divorced and I split and lived in Vegas, I had to be a business owner. That was my identity day one. I just didn't know what business I wanted to get into. And when I tried to get into business with him, when I was getting done with high school and quit college, we butted heads. Because it's a small business, and he is a typical New Englander. I'm going to do it on my own. I need to control everything. I don't trust anybody. And we work 7 days a week.
What nationality?
We're French Canadian. Boucher,
okay.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Boucher. Hello.
Yeah. And then my grandfather, his parents were from Canada. They came down from Montreal, but he was a hustler. I mean, he was a vacuum sales cleaner.
This is your dad.
This is my dad's dad.
Oh, your grandfather.
Yeah, my grandfather. So he sold vacuums. He started the first farm stand in New Hampshire, and they would ship produce down to Boston. He was an innovative guy, but the same problem is he wouldn't bring on any partners. And they looked at apartment buildings in Nashua, right on the border of New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and they could have bought apartments for 30, 40 years. They went up 5, 10 times since then.
Yeah.
And he's never wanted to let go of control, and he just didn't buy assets. So fast.
I'm sorry to squirrel thing here for a second, but I remember this produce market in Boston where they have on the streets are filled with produce. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Is that where he was?
Yeah,
no
yeah.
kidding.
50 years
like
ago.
in North
Boston.
North Boston. Yeah. Sorry, it just had a flashback because my dad lived in Boston for a while. Sorry, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, he was a natural salesman. He would go to all the farms, buy the produce, and then make a markup and ship it down to Boston. Drive down there every night.
Cool.
So I mean, it was in my blood. Like I was a hustler.
Entrepreneurship is in your blood.
100%. Yeah. Like I couldn't have a job. I mean, I worked as a meat cutter in Costco for like a week with convicts, and I was like, I got to get out of this. Like I couldn't stand it. So then I had to find a path, and then that course really opened up my eyes when I saw creative financing, and I know it's what you really reinforce with your students. Like that opened up my mind. I was like, man, I can actually own something and not have to put any money down. Yeah. So that was the start of it all. But then I didn't know anything. I looked like I was like 12 years old, and I was really lost with the whole process and losing my girlfriend and a knucklehead. You know, grew up with a bunch of buddies, and we drank all the time. And
this is in Vegas or where?
Yeah, in Vegas. Okay. Played hard. You know,
and sure.
And I moved back to New Hampshire, and then that was like a real lonely time. And you know, those like back in Boston, if you know, being back there. It's just those falls and winters are just so fucking cold.
Yeah, you're not outside, so you're in your house because it's too freaking cold to be outside.
And depressing, you know, they never
very
end.
Depressing because you don't see any sunlight.
There's no sun.
Right.
Yeah, and that kind of summer changed my life, and it's kind of basic, but I saw the Tony Robbins infomercial. 9/11 just happened. He was doing something on QVC, and man, I was like, I gotta find a different way. Like, I don't like college.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
When 9/11 happened, I was with Tony. I was in Hawaii at his life.
Oh, you were at that?
Yeah, I was at that event. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's just to digress again, guys, forgive me, but I want to tell a little story about that. Yeah, so when we woke up, both towers had already fallen. And I mean, there were like 3,500 people there. There were people that lost people there. It was intense. But,
you were there.
Yeah.
I saw that video. They kept replaying the video.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, it was incredible. Anyway, sorry.
That's what hooked
moment.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, this guy can help shift people's meanings and feelings and associations.
Right.
And I want to do that with myself. But I was so young, I didn't know what even that meant. I just knew I felt bad about myself.
Right.
And so it was so cool to take that shift, and boy, it wasn't an overnight turnaround. I mean, I was drinking.
So you just started working on yourself.
A ton,
right?
A ton, and I wanted to make a change. I had to do something I felt proud of myself.
You hit a tipping point.
I did.
Yeah,
I did, and I couldn't work for my dad.
It's very common, by the way. You know that people they build up, and disgust is a pretty powerful motivator.
It is,
and I imagine that was a piece of this, and you're like, hey, man, I got to do something.
It was a huge piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially, you know, when you're not living up to your own standard in your own mind.
Yeah.
You know, where I knew I could be something great, but I'm drinking, I'm partying, I'm lost with people I don't even want to be around.
Sure.
But I had no outlet to like actually turn it on. And when I lost sports, I'm like, what's the point of sitting in an office the rest of my life?
Right.
And then real estate was, man, a game changer.
So how'd you start? What'd you do first? So, by the way, I don't want to bump ahead if there's something else you want to throw in there. Okay. Did you go see Tony or just read his books? Or
I did.
You went and saw him?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Life-changing, isn't it?
Man, life-changing.
Yeah.
But this is how much of a knucklehead I was.
Yeah.
So I worked all summer for my dad's paving company, paid the ticket. Yeah, flew to New Jersey. I was in.
It was in New Jersey. I've been to that one, yeah.
Yeah. And I got the crappy cheap flight, had a layover, got there late. But before I went, the night before, I went out in Vegas with a buddy and went so hard, man. And I could barely get out of bed. And my mom had to pull me out of bed to drive me to the airport at like 6 a.m. I forgot a shoe on the way down to, like, she's like, where's your shoe? And we had to go back and pick it up.
Oh, geez.
And then I show up, and right when I get into the event, and we go into the big arena, and that's Secaucus, the giant stadium. Yeah. You know, they're doing the Dickens pattern, and I'm like jittery, and I'm hungover.
You got there right for that?
I did.
So let me explain what that is, guys. So Tony does this exercise called the Dickens process, where you basically look at your life if you don't change it, and you stack pain on not changing it. So he says, okay, stack on the pain if you don't change. And he takes you out a year, then 3 years, then 5 years, then 20 years. And I remember going through it, and they turn the lights off because everybody's crying. It's a super powerful process that he pulls you out of, by the way. I hope I'm not going to screw things up for people that want to do this. By the way, shout out to him. If you ever can see him, just freaking go do it while he's still speaking live. I spent 20 years following him around the planet. But and I remember when I did it, I was so focused on success that I visualized, I'm going to choke up saying this, I visualized standing over my son's grave because he'd killed himself because I wasn't in his life. Talk about pain, okay? So that's just an extreme example. But when you stack that pain, you get the leverage on yourself to freaking change. Did you go through the process?
Yeah.
Did it impact you?
Oh, a ton.
Yeah. So,
and it
anyway,
freaked me out. I mean, that was my first time ever doing anything.
So you got there late. You didn't do the firewalk or anything.
No, I just
you got there
right
late.
into the heart of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so again, shout out to Tony. If you can see him, just do it.
Yeah.
So first
drinking.
real estate. Let's get to real estate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
this is good stuff, man. I didn't know you did all that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think the foundation is so important, right? Because
for sure.
You got to have that drive, man.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, like if you come to one of my boot camps, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids, because how the hell do you get anything if you don't know what it is?
That's it.
You've got to create that burning desire. You've got to have, create leverage on yourself to push through fear, to push through limiting beliefs, or to get uncomfortable. A lot of people are just comfortable. And, you've heard me say it, guys, if you're, comfort zone's a nice warm place and nothing freaking grows there, right? So
that's it, man. Yeah.
But,
I was uncomfortable. So when I came back, I went to community college, got my little real estate license designation.
You got a license?
I did.
Okay, what state?
I did, in Nevada.
In Nevada,
In Vegas, yeah. I was living in the back of my buddy's house in like a little casita thing, and it was a mess. 22, just wanting to learn. I thought to myself, okay, I can learn some contracts. I can learn due diligence. All these things I don't know, I can get started here.
Yeah.
And this was 2002, 2003. And I was struggling because I had no network. I didn't know anything. I had no advertising money. And I took two things that really impacted me. Number one was I did Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Matt Ferry.
That's the listing guy that helps realtors, right?
Yeah.
He's very popular.
He is. Yeah. I mean, the thing that it taught me, and this is a thing that I think helps every investor, is when we met and I did a presentation on cold calling, and that's kind of been my thing, my competitive edge.
Right.
And he was like an old school Earl Nightingale descendant, where it's sales. If you don't go sell, and he was harsh too. I mean, my first event is he would yell at you if you went up to the bathroom, or he would say, "Hey, the reason you're not successful is because you're fat." So
wow.
Yeah, it was an intense. And this was my first seminar about sales and anything to do with real estate. But it did solidify to me that you have to take the action to make the contacts, build the relationships, and that's going to be the foundation.
In any business.
And that's it.
Any business is sales, marketing, and candidly innovation as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And at the time, that was a competitive edge.
Right.
Things
yeah, you're cold calling. We're going to talk about that a little bit here, because that's I was always so impressed with that. But keep going.
Oh, well, the second thing I did, which was a different and creative, was I had to find an edge, which was getting some type of exposure to buyers or sellers. So I advertised in the gay magazine, and I'm not gay, but
in the gay magazine.
I did.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was one publication in Vegas, and it was a very tight community. And I thought to myself, they got good incomes.
Well, you're a good-looking guy. That probably did you put your
was
picture in there too?
I did, of course.
Hey, whatever works, man.
That's it, man. And
by the way, guys, he's here with his gorgeous girlfriend today, just so you know. And anyway, just to clear that up.
Yeah, I got some crazy calls.
I
got a Hawaiian guy still tries to date me today. Yeah, he loves me. So, but through that process, I got my first big sale. I mean, and that was a really, really pivotal moment, because after 12 months of no income, I was down to nothing.
Wow.
And the last thing on like the motivation and the building the foundation, but that whole chapter in Think and Grow Rich about the burning obsession, you know, and did you do that? You write it out, you know, and I made it very clear. I mean, I had a very low goal. I'm kind of different than a lot of people where my girlfriend, she's about, you know, I want $1 billion, and that billion is what she chases. And for me, it was like, I want $3,000 a month of passive income so I could get out of the rat race. And I have my incremental goals, you know, at 50 million. And so, the at the time, I mean, that was everything to me. So I was screaming that in the shower, you know, I'm right on track to get my $3,000 a month, and I'm willing to
incantation.
That's right. Yeah. Call sellers, you know, 6 days a week until I find the people that need my services the most.
You still remember it. You've said it so many times.
I do. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And in return for this money, I'll provide people like financial certainty, and I'll do what I say I'm going to do. And I'm committed to this goal, one, because it gives me the time to spend with my friends, my family, the people I love, the woman I love. 2, the opportunity to contribute, to change my life and other people's lives. And then 3, it gives me the resources and the ability to actually go out there and change my life and make decisions that are going to impact others. And I just kept saying that like over and over.
Guys, when you do that, an incantation like that, it gets into the fiber of your being. And he's memorized it. You know, that's one of the things we do in my boot camp is we do an identity statement. And it's similar to that, you know, where you forward think where you want to be, you know, and like my identity statement is I, Rod Cleef, am a magnificent, amazing, passionate gift from God. I'm an incredible father, inspiring leader, loving billionaire, and amazing husband that puts smiles on the faces of children, inspires others to excellence, and rocks the world. Like you, I've said that thousands of times, and everybody at my events does that. It's very, very powerful, emotional, this thing, but love it, man, freaking love it. So, by the way, you mentioned Think and Grow Rich. Guys, I have given out, and I'm not exaggerating, probably over 4,000 copies of that book. Yeah, physical copies of that book. Wow. True story. Yeah. So, real estate.
So where the real estate comes in is I never wanted to be a realtor. I knew I didn't. It just wasn't in my DNA. I didn't like that business, and I always wanted to buy a commercial. Well, I wanted to buy income producing real estate, and I didn't know
whatever that
else.
was.
That's right. Yeah. So the big thing for me was, number one, just figuring out what I wanted to do, but I was doing what everyone else was doing, and I got caught up in the whole madness of the 2003 to 2007 run up, you know, Big Short.
Sure, if you could fog a mirror, you could buy a house.
That's
back
it.
then. Didn't matter how much money you made because it was stated income loans.
That's it. Yeah, ninja.
What's wrong with that situation? Hello.
Yeah, right.
Well, what's wrong is what happened in 08 and 9.
Yeah. And I, of course, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I learned the cash flow principles, but you know, I honestly, it was greed that gets inside my DNA, and I'm buying assets that didn't really fundamentally work. And then in Vegas, it all toppled down.
Same as here, man. I mean, my portfolio dropped 70% in 09.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and I mean, Vegas was really bad. California was really bad. Arizona was really bad. You know, these hot markets. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got crushed. And it was just a domino effect where one tenant would leave and you can't cover the mortgage. Then I'm taking on more debt to pay for that mortgage. And then another tenant leaves because there's so much inventory out there. And there was no niche. It was buying houses from a builder, waiting, 6 months and selling it for $50,000 profit.
Right.
Like that was just
right. And this will never stop. It's going to go on forever. That's what I thought too. Yeah. Well,
right. Yeah. It was. So that was a hard lesson, and it was the best lesson I've ever learned in business. And I see young people getting in the game now over the last 5 years, and believe it or not, they think they can't lose money in real estate.
I know. I'm seeing it too. Does it matter if it cash flows, if I can turn around and sell it? Yeah, it does freaking matter. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I wrote a book. I know you wrote a book as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. I wrote a book, the subtitle of which is The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, i.e. it's all about cash flow. I don't care. I don't care if you can buy a property for $1 million that somebody else sold for $3 million 5 years ago. It doesn't matter. Does it cash flow is all that freaking matters.
That's it, man. Yeah. And when we're clear on that why, no matter what, if the market goes up, down, sideways, it's just going to get through it with cash flow.
Right. So what was the first asset class you really got going on?
Yeah, so...
You did Frank and Dave's thing, right?
I did, yeah.
So there's a couple of guys that I don't know if they're still doing their workshops.
They're winding down.
Yeah. They're mobile home park guys, and I went to 2 of their events as well. I was going to do mobile home parks, as you know. My brother did it. My good friend Kevin Bupp done it for years. I never pulled the trigger on it, but it's Frank and Dave. It's Frank. I forgot their last name.
Yeah, Dave Reynolds, Frank Rolfe.
That's right, right. And they had a really nice presentation on how to do mobile home parks.
They did,
and that set you off.
It did. It really impacted me. Yeah, I bought their course, and but before I did that, I was reading and learning about commercial real estate, and I tried to do retail.
Oh, you did?
I did, and I don't know. I could send you a picture sometime. So I did a letter campaign, So I said I'm going to find a way to find a retail owner in Vegas. Did it in my own market.
Buy a strip center.
That's it. Buy a strip center. So I sent out this campaign of maybe 500 or 1,000 letters, and I got a bunch of calls. But then I got one back from an old cowboy guy in Vegas. And he said, "Hey, check out my building on West Sahara."
Right.
They call it the Statue of Liberty Plaza. So I drive over there, not far from my house, and it's a strip center with an out parcel, and it has the Statue of Liberty, maybe like really? 40 feet high.
Only in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I thought, oh, this is not bad. This is this is actual nice little center. It's not nice, but it's a retail strip. And then, but all it was the out parcel. It was just the Statue of Liberty. That's it.
You thought it was the building behind it too?
I thought it was everything.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It was 140 square feet.
Oh my God.
I bought it.
You bought it?
I bought it.
Oh no. Oh my God.
I bought it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What'd you pay?
$60,000.
Oh my, for 140 square feet.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break from this great episode for a word from our sponsor, which is the Multifamily Bootcamp. Now, financial success is what you're after. We are rapidly approaching one of the greatest opportunities I think we're going to see in our lifetimes to capitalize financially. So if you know real estate is the vehicle for you, you're crazy not to spend a couple days with me at one of my boot camps. I've always got one right around the corner. Thousands and thousands of people have taken action on their journeys to creating generational cash flow for themselves and their families from attending my events. I don't sell anything at this event, so it's basically 16 to 18 hours of training with nothing being sold. Kind of a no-brainer if you're serious about this. To check it out, text the word links to 72345 or go to rodslinks.com. Again, text links to 72345 or go to rodslinks.com. I promise you'll be glad you came. Let's get back to it.
Yeah.
Okay, we call those seminars.
I know. But this is how bad that market was. This was before the crash. This was in that 6-7 era. And I bought it. And I'm such a knucklehead. I thought we were like gonna have a little like pizza business in there and all just crazy ideas.
Right.
But I was starting to run out of time where I had a relationship, got a little hard money on it, and we were making payments, and it was not cash flowing, obviously.
Right.
And it was beat to hell, but I ended up finding, I drove by a strip center and I saw one of those big Statue of Liberties floating in the wind. And then I'm like, that's Liberty Tax. So then I went home, I called Liberty Tax's corporate.
Smart.
And then I got a hold of the guy that started the company.
Wow.
It's a public company. I don't know how I got a hold of him.
Wow.
In like 07 or 06. And he's like, you know what? I'm from Vegas. I named the company from that statue. That's what inspired me. So I'll do income taxes out of there and I'll rent it from you.
Look at you.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
So we got
lemon in the lemonade. Okay.
And I sold it. I sold it for 120, doubled the profits to a California 1031.
Oh, beautiful.
And but just like when I started learning how to gamble in Vegas when I was young, and I don't gamble, but being in the city, you got to learn how to do it.
Right.
The worst thing that happens is when you can win the first time.
Yeah.
Right. But you think you're better than you are.
Yes. I know that drill too. Yes.
Yeah. So
what was next?
That wasn't duplicatable, and a lot of follies around commercial real estate and brokerage and some things there. But the mobile home parks were the tipping point. So
that was it.
That was it. That was where I needed to find an edge, and I figured out if I'm going to ever get in the commercial game, it has to be grimy. It has to be the rough, grimy.
That's mobile home parks, baby.
That is.
So talk about what you did, because I was very intrigued when I met you and you told me what you were doing, because with mobile home parks. First of all, they're misclassified all over the country. They for the longest time it was almost all mom and pops, and the financing can be challenging depending upon the caliber, and it's like the redheaded stepchild. So tell my peeps what you did to absolutely kick ass in that business.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I did was build relationships.
Okay,
and the way I did that at the time, because lack of resources actually ended up being like my resourcefulness was the best quality I could have. So it was literally doing what I did as a broker in real estate and just picking up a phone, buying a list from Frank and Dave, and this
Cold calling every single owner in the country.
That was it, man. Yeah, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I had to brainwash myself in the morning.
I remember you told me you had a little script. I want to say that you were saying you were calling for your dad or some crazy shit like that. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I remember that.
You did? Yeah. I had to brainwash myself. Some days it was, me and my dad are partners. My dad doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you do what you do what you got to do. Right.
Yeah. Because when you're living in your buddy's, couch,
right,
and you don't have any money, you just got to fake it, man, or just every day.
I act as if fake it till you make it. So you started cold calling these owners. You build relationships, saying, "Hey, my dad and I want to get into this," and these old people, of course, want to take you under their wing at that point, right? So you're creating that type of a relationship, like almost a fatherly, motherly kind of relationship. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. There's some real good, especially people from the Midwest.
Yeah.
It was tough to break into the Northeast and out in the West Coast.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of the West Coast people.
No, they're real people, and I coach when in my boot camp, I talk about seller bonding, especially with, retirees, for example. They're more interested in the relationship than they are the asset. You start with the relationship, you bond with them, not to take advantage of them, but to create win-win situations. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you need to figure out the motivation, what are they trying to achieve?
Right, and once you've connected with them, built rapport, bonded with them, they're going to tell you what they want and why they need it. And it ain't always price.
No.
Sometimes it's cash flow. Sometimes they need to sell quick. It just depends. There's so many different things that pop up.
It is. Oh, yeah. I always preach to my staff, PTT, it's price, terms, or timeline.
Right.
Like those are the three levers that we can push on here.
Right.
But the big mistake was I learned it the hard way, and I'm sure you have too, where if I don't know their motivation, I show up to Dallas, I drive 2 hours to some little town in West Texas, and then the guy doesn't even have the number of pads that I thought.
Right.
He lies about the occupancy. He doesn't even really want to sell it.
Right.
I'm sitting there in the middle of the desert in a rent-a-car like that was fucking stupid.
Right.
So those were the ones where, I always harp on, especially for investors, is at any asset class. It's like, man, this is such a nice asset. You've had it for such a long time. Why would you ever want to sell it? No. And just shut my mouth and just keep listening. And then me and my girlfriend got done with a Chris Voss negotiating course.
Oh, I had him on my podcast. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Never split the difference. He actually came and spoke to my mastermind as well. But anyway.
Yeah. So we learned tactical empathy, his whole premise of his teachings. And even taking it a step further is just reiterating back what they just said to me and shutting up again and letting them really, because they might not tell you the first time that why they want to sell it.
Deeper. Go deeper. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, let's talk. I want to talk about the differences between these different asset classes. But just to give people some idea, how many mobile home spaces have you purchased in your lifetime so far?
Oh man. Because with those guys, I did 90 to 100 referrals.
No.
Parks.
On an 90 to 100 parks.
Yeah, over almost an 8 to 9 year period of time.
You were working with Frank and Dave at that time.
I was,
and then you went off on your own, if I recall.
I did, yeah.
Right, okay.
In 2016. I was just right when, splitting it up around that time.
Okay. And so we're going to come back to mobile home parks in a second. What are the other asset classes, again, that you are in and are familiar with?
Yeah.
Retail, of course, we just talked about.
Yeah.
Did you do anything besides that first one, or was that the only retail you did?
I did one out in Minnesota.
Okay.
I did a little 3-unit automotive.
Okay.
A glass company and car wash.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, when we met, we were in a mastermind that there was a lot of retail in that. So you probably learned a lot there as well. So you have done multifamily as well.
I did, yeah. At a 48-unit complex in northern Nevada in Winnemucca.
Okay. And then you've also done, have you done any, you did small bay industrial.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a office and a warehouse kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, office warehouse.
Roll-up door.
Roll-up door in the back, great for jobbers, contractors, things like that.
Got those today. I love that asset class.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
What else is there?
self-storage.
Self-storage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Big in self-storage. I mean, you have like a few thousand self-storage, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at your bio here.
We got
70 self-storage facilities totaling 3 million square feet. That's some freaking self-storage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close to 20,000 units. Yeah.
Wow.
We got 5 projects still getting built. And
Wow. So you're building as well.
yeah.
Are you geographically specific, or are you spread out all over?
A little spread out, but
Yeah.
mostly Northeast. You know,
Okay.
back where I went back
no
to
kidding.
my roots.
Oh,
yeah.
no kidding. Good for you. So talk about, at a higher level, we're not going to go too micro, but talk about the differences between these different asset classes. I mean, mobile home parks, I'll let you, I don't want to steal your thunder. Please talk about these differences.
Yeah, and the one other one I did in this project still going is high bay industrial. I did 150,000 square foot tilt
Oh,
up
no kidding. So a big one.
development. Yeah, right outside of Boston. So
Wow. Well, that's gotten real big with the whole Amazon dynamic, from what I understand.
it has. Yeah, it's right under Amazon's threshold where I'm
is it a little too small?
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
okay.
is okay.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
We wanted to target a smaller type industrial tenant.
Has that gone well?
It's going.
Oh, it's going right. Oh, you're building?
It's built, C of O done. It's in
Okay.
leasing mode, but
Okay. Wow.
development. I mean,
Yeah.
we're riding the wave where
Okay.
it's not as what it was 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah, it's survived to 25 is the catchphrase right now.
Yeah.
We've got some assets that we've got to do mods on, because my partner got me into some adjustable rate debt. But anyway, let's see. Let's talk about the differences.
Yeah.
So I mean, mobile home parks are kind of in the world of their own. But if you would explain to my listeners.
Yeah. I think to preface that, and I know when we first talked about this, we got real clear that land lease community is really what you're buying.
In mobile home parks.
In mobile home
You
parks.
don't want to own the homes.
Zero.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll go and you'll buy a park that might have that park-owned homes, they're called, where they're owned by the park, and you want the residents to buy them, even if you finance them, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
You want to be just renting the lot.
That's all the leverage.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And there is a wide variety, like I've heard you say, with D class to A class, and in mobile home parks, I think you'll see huge swings in the spectrum of quality of asset.
You mess with me, you mess with the whole trailer park. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
no, I mean, I know a big thing is the infrastructure. I mean, when I'm talking infrastructure, I'm talking the water and sewer, the electrical. That's like a big factor in mobile home parks, correct?
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get some mobile home parks that'll have a sewage pond. I forgot what they're called.
Yeah,
Lagoon.
lagoon,
They're
yeah.
called a lagoon.
Yeah.
That's like a lake of sewage, guys,
Yeah.
just to give you an idea.
Bought a
And
lot
then-
of those.
Yeah, did you?
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got some that have an actual sewage plant. And some of
Treatment
those
plant.
things are big. I
Yeah.
mean, they're like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Oh, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got to be careful with the wells. Like if you've only got one well, for example, that well gets bad, you're done.
You're in trouble.
So I know my friend, you know Kevin, don't you?
Yeah.
Kevin? Yeah. So Kevin's one of my best friends, and he has a bunch of parks, and his thing was he'd always try to have some solution in case the infrastructure went bad,
100%.
especially on the water, like a city component or something.
Yeah.
But is that your?
Oh yeah, you introduced me to him actually.
Oh,
years
did I?
ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
yeah.
that's crazy.
So, but you're spot on. I mean, you're essentially buying infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah, and then you have the leverage because you own the land, and it is not easy to move a mobile home these days.
Right.
It's
Right.
in terms of a maintenance and moving. That's a dying business.
Right.
People set it, and they're pretty
It's
much done.
Yeah. And so you've got some leverage on the residents as well, as
You
far
do.
as, you don't go crazy with the rent bumps, but you can bump the rent. They're likely not going to leave. And if they don't pay, you resell it to somebody else, right?
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so just to give you the listener a perspective about, if they want to invest in parks, I think it's similar to a lot of other commercial assets where you have to hit at least a minimum threshold of income or units to really justify all the time.
What is it? I've heard it's like 40 or 50 to have at least have a manager on site, but you tell me if it's otherwise than that.
I mean, we target 30 grand a month.
30 grand
if you
a
can
month.
grow
Okay.
top line.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
If you you raise your rents, if you
Right.
can bring in 30 grand a month, you can drop 5 to 10,000 in cash flow at some point after you stabilize it.
Fantastic. It's a lot of work.
It is.
Yeah, and there aren't a lot of management companies for these smaller mobile home
No,
parks, right?
there
That's
is
another
not.
thing. You're going to do it yourself, or, for the big, institutional grade mobile home parks. Of course, there are probably some management companies out there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
So
little.
that's mobile home parks. So pay attention to the freaking infrastructure. That's the caveat there, correct?
That's
like,
it.
Make sure that you've got plan B if plan A screws up.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then to that point is have that plan B, have the capital
To do
reserves.
it if you have to do it. That's
That's
right.
it.
Raise that capital. That's right. Kevin said that too. All right, so now let's talk about, let's go to self-storage. You're huge in that. So
Yeah.
Talk about why you love that and any specific nuances there.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because there's still somewhat of a blue ocean of mom and pop owners that are
There is.
mismanaging assets. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, in the whole scheme of things, there's 50 or 60,000 storages, and same with mobile home parks in the country. I would say at least a third of them are so small and in such rural markets you would never want to touch them.
Right.
But the remainder, the other third are probably public REITs or big private equity firms.
Right.
And then there's a third in there there's some opportunity.
There's still some opportunity.
There is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're still cold calling mobile home parks too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, no kidding. So you got a whole team cold calling mobile home parks, mom and pops, self-storage mom and pops. Anything else?
Every day. Yeah, and small bay.
And small bay?
Yeah.
No kidding.
But I
Good
had
for
to
you.
consolidate. I mean, I got 3-4 sales staff.
Okay.
So we look at different regions and target
Gotcha.
very, very particular assets.
Gotcha. So, have you ever, just back to mobile home parks for 1 second before you get into self-storage, have you ever taken one and converted it to a different use?
We worked on one in Cincinnati
did?
near your assets.
I'm going there today.
Yeah,
I have to go there today, actually.
Yeah, we closed down an old park that had defunct sized lots. They were so small.
Right.
And it was more of an RV
Where you
type.
can step from one roof to the next roof to the
Exactly.
next. Yeah, I've seen some of those.
10 wides,
Right,
people
right.
don't live in a 10 wide home
Right,
anymore.
right.
Yeah. So we did start converting it and got approvals for an RV park.
Okay.
And then just sold it before we did the conversion.
Okay. So self-storage.
Yeah. So I think the thing to really highlight for the average investor that wants to own storage and run it themselves or run a mobile home park is that the management is so important.
Yeah.
And you're running a business. It's like a retail business.
So we're on mobile home parks again. Okay. So sorry.
Both. This
Both.
is a common thread on
Okay.
both of them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because there's lack of management, institutional or quality third-party management.
Right.
It's the opportunity, and it's the most challenging.
It's a
part of it.
double-edged sword.
It's a double edge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Because how many people on triple net assets have a motivation to sell? If
Right.
you have a
By the
credit
way,
tenant-
triple net is where the tenant pays for everything, guys. You'll see that with the Walgreens or these corner drugstores, dollar stores. Anytime you see one tenant in a building, more often than not, it can be a triple net lease where the tenant's paying the taxes, the insurance, the common maintenance, everything. So anyway, please continue.
Yeah. So that somewhat difficult process is the advantage.
Right.
So that's where, being prepared in the beginning when you don't have scale, you're going to trade your time and money to manage
I tell
someone.
people, if you're willing to do what other people won't, you'll always be a success. And you're a freaking testament to that comment.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. And that was it. And just having one on-site manager and managing that manager and, they quit and you got to fly out in the middle of the night.
It's a pain. Yeah.
And then I've had managers, really, when I was so busy in 2016, 17, as the market was cranking back up, I was running around meeting owners, and I wasn't a great business owner. I was hiring staff and I wasn't overseeing them. And a lot of two particular asset managers, they used the leverage against me where they looked at, the company top line's bringing in a lot of money. Now I had 10 million in equity that was only generating personally to me about 150 grand in net income.
Right.
A 1.5% return on my equity because
Right.
I was feeding all of these costs in mobile homes and in the storages and all the management costs because I was inefficient. But my point around this is that when people know they have leverage on you, I mean, I don't know if it's human nature, but they tried to extort.
Not everybody, but yes, it happens. It's happened to me dozens of times. There are people with integrity out there, but it is an issue.
Well, that was the thing that I learned. It's just like, building up an organization where I'm not dependent on that one person.
Right.
Where that asset manager that day said, I'm going to California, I need 50 grand or I'm not going to stay in the company. And my property was in escrow. These were the 5 mobile home parks I built up and earned it took 10 years to earn that equity.
Wow.
And I was going through the sale process and she just leaves and
Wow.
I didn't pay her. So I'm over there trying to speak Spanish.
Wow.
I found another Hispanic woman to help me. And we collected the rent.
got it done?
I got it done.
You
I got it done.
Yeah, I hate that. I won't say that that's super common, but it's happened to me numerous times as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and not jump too far ahead, but I mean the whole EOS and traction and building up a mid-sized organization where you have processes and systems.
Yeah. Let me talk about that for a second, if you will.
Yep.
So The book Traction has a business operating system that is extraordinary. It's by a guy named Gino Wickman, and it's called Entrepreneur's Operating System. Well, we use it in all my businesses as well, and it's groundbreaking. So when you get to a point where you have enough staff, and you've got more than just you and a couple of other people, I highly recommend you read that book and implement it, because it is groundbreaking. And it's really helped us. I assume it's helped you as well.
A ton.
Yeah.
And that was really eliminating that problem,
right?
Where you align values with your staff.
Correct. And instead of an organizational chart, you have an accountability chart where you outline what people are accountable for. You set 90-day goals. We just had our quarterly meeting last week, actually, and you set 90-day goals. And I want to tell you, I'm not doing it to the level that I'd like to be doing it, because I've got so many plates spinning right now. But yeah, EOS is the way to go, this book Traction. Anyway, please continue.
Oh, we're bought in. Yeah. So that's what you're signing up for. When you're buying a commercial asset like an alternative asset,
right?
Storage and mobile home parks, I really suggest get your hands dirty, learn the process, and you're going to manage an employee.
That's right. And then you can also manage, ultimately maybe a management company as well if you buy large enough assets. So that way, but you know what's going on. You understand the business. So talk about small bay industrial.
Yeah. So the way I came to the conclusion that would be a good asset class was, number one, we would get guys trying to take the power and wire up their storage unit and try to work out of the storage unit.
Yeah.
Put in a generator, put in a refrigerator.
Right.
We're wondering why the power bill's going up. And some of the units don't have power, but the ones that they can get access to the light, they'll get in there.
Gotcha.
So we realized, on the cameras that we had a lot of commercial guys, especially in the Northeast, where there's a lot of contractors out there, like everywhere, for the most part.
Right.
But family generational contractors, a lot of people up there, they do what their dad
plumber,
That's it.
right down the line.
Yeah. And I was going to be a paver. So I was like I know the business, and you need space. You need an office, you need a bathroom, and these guys
you need some storage too.
That's it. You need warehouse. Yeah. You need parts and park your trucks and work on them. So we decided, we had to tell these tenants you can't work out of the unit.
Hello.
And they're trying to, and people try to live at them and everything.
Right. Oh, you've seen all that too. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen some TikTok videos about that. Yeah, I'm cooking my meal in here. It's all dark, and he's got a
Oh yeah, people try it all the time.
Yeah.
But the business guys are good guys. They just want to.
Oh yeah.
They want to find a way to keep their rent cheap. They don't need a big warehouse, a huge one. And we decided, okay, well, we're going to do 1,600 square foot bays, and it's free span, so we can give someone 2, 3, 4 different units because there's no columns in the middle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's a big red iron steel, big open free span building. So they're 40 by 40. And so they get two doors, two larger doors that can fit a semi truck, 14 by 14, and then a man door.
Gotcha.
And then if they want, we'll give them the outlets there for a bathroom, and we can build it out for them, or they can do it.
So you built these?
I built these.
Okay.
And I bought a handful of these existing.
You started with an existing, I assume?
I did, yeah.
And
then
you started building them. And so when you build them, typically how many of these are? I mean, I suppose it's relevant to the land size, but give me some examples of how many at each location you might have arranged that you might be building, just out of my own curiosity.
Yeah, like storage, about 30,000 feet's the threshold.
Okay.
And so the average unit size maybe 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet.
Okay.
So 10 to 20 units.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got to check the zoning. You've got to what do you do to check demand? I'm just curious.
It's tricky. What we notice is obviously go on CoStar, pull up. What I do is I just look at anything for lease under 10,000 square feet.
Gotcha.
So I look on LoopNet and I'll call, and I'll have my team call all the brokers, and then we'll get an idea. Do you have any space available? And we'll do it within a 30-minute radius. And I noticed, and I've watched some of your stuff in the past, and we look for diverse job markets.
Yeah, that's super important.
It is.
Yeah.
And in the Northeast, we have a lot of colleges. We have a lot of specialized manufacturing.
Right.
Where they can, it's a lot of military contractors. And there's a lot of, and then there's high cost of housing, and then that provides a lot of service providers for that housing. So
gotcha.
It's a nice diverse economy where when things swing, that area is not that sexy, but when it's bad, it's great. It's very stable.
Gotcha. So on that note, Are you seeing a pullback in occupancy and in your different asset classes? You're seeing some economic hit at this point?
Yeah, I'm not seeing occupancy. I'm not saying so people have demand,
right?
That hasn't shifted post-COVID, but it's sensitivity to price.
Sensitivity to price.
Big
gotcha.
time.
So you've had to drop your price.
Big time. Yeah,
okay.
we offer a lot of concessions. We give almost 2 months of free rent.
Wow. This is on the small bay stuff or everything?
On the storage
and
then the small bay is, to get leases signed. Yeah, it depends. But yeah, if we have vacant space as we're leasing up an entire development, giving away free
whatever
rent.
it takes to get them in there. So same here. I mean, I've taken over some assets recently at 50% occupancy that a former partner ran into the ground, and boy, we're doing whatever we have to do to get them in there. I don't care, lower rent, whatever. Get the occupancy up, then we'll worry about bumping the rents. And I assume you feel the same way.
100%. And if to boil down the public REIT storage market, that is their underlying business plan.
It is.
Yeah, you get the leverage. You spend whatever it takes, and they have 7. And I've literally been to Utah and met everyone at Extra Space, all the executive team. They got 17 guys from MIT that are dynamically pricing a unit so they know exactly the lifetime value of the customer, how much they can give up, and then what the average stay of that customer is so that they maximize value on their marketing dollar.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not that sophisticated, but it's just like fill the damn place up and then we'll raise the rents.
That's
right?
it. That's it. You got leverage.
Right. That's funny. So what's next for you, brother?
Yeah, and just speaking conversions, like that's too heavy of a lift right now.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's big. It's big money.
It's
because
huge.
you got to move walls, plumbing, electrical. Now, hotel to multifamily can work. I've got one student that killed it with one of those, but there are a lot of factors there as well, sizing and fire constraints and things of that nature. But now I got one guy that killed it, so I will say that. But even there, you got to be careful.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, one quick story on an industrial building converted into storage, and then and I have a high bay.
Now that's not uncommon. I got a student that just did that killed it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really was aggressive on this one. I bought a 350,000 square foot warehouse. It was Hallmark Greeting Cards Manufacturing Center in Connecticut.
Wow.
And it's been a rough one, man. But
that's big. Man.
It was huge.
I mean, you're pulling them in from 5 states to fill 350,000 square feet.
I know. Well, I'll tell you this. It really was touch and go for a while, and you've been through it all. And that's the thing with real estate is one asset, especially when you sign recourse.
Yeah.
That can pull down everything because the second that you default, the lender has the right to file the notice of default, and then all your commercial loans can then in turn call the notes due if they want to.
Yeah. By the way, what he's talking about here is there's recourse and non-recourse. Recourse is if they foreclose, they can come after you personally. Ask me how I know. And non-recourse, they can only take the property, but you don't want either to happen, because even if they take a non-recourse loan, you're effectively out of business at that point for that type of loan, at least if it's a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan.
That's it.
But do you have conforming debt on some of these Fannie Freddie stuff?
Not really.
Mostly
no.
bank?
A lot of local bank.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
regional banks, and they like stabilized once you get stabilized.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what? Let's shift for a minute before we cut loose here. Let's talk about your views on the economic environment. Because, I'm a bear. I think the shit's about to hit the fan. I really do. And I talk about, the fact that our national debt's going up $1 trillion every 100 days right now.
Yeah,
we're paying $1 trillion in interest a year. I mean, to give you an idea, just go look at what $1 trillion looks like compared to $1 billion or $1 million on a graph. It'll blow your mind. And, and big players like Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, arguably largest bank in the world, is saying we're headed for what do you call it? Basically a shitstorm.
Okay.
And Elon Musk said they're lying to you. It's going to be a bigger crash than they said.
Yeah.
I'm getting excited, frankly, because I got crushed in 08 and 9, and I got crushed by that wave. I'm surfing this wave.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be incredible opportunity. But I'd love to, you may disagree. I'd love to hear your take on where you think we're headed. I think obviously we've got a lot hinging on the election.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
Yeah, and we know who we want.
Yeah.
But you want to elaborate?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I the way I look at it is, I'm trying to see the macro trends. And then I'm just trying to position myself to where I'm going to catch fish no matter what, right? Just stick that net out there, and then they're gonna just swim right into me.
Yeah.
So the way I see the asset classes I'm in, the economic trends are inflation's going to hurt the little guy always, right?
Yeah.
The guy that's just working a 9 to 5.
C-class assets, C and D.
That's it. Yeah, and that's affordable housing's not going away.
Right.
You can't buy a bigger house. You can't. You're constrained. And we live in a culture where consumption is your identity. I mean, and it's easier.
And we're a renter nation.
That's it. Yeah. And with Amazon effect, impulsive buying, I mean, it's out of control.
Right.
So storage and mobile home parks, I love. I think small bay industrial the same. So the
multifamily as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Multifamily. Yeah, it's not changing. The social trends are great because people continue to live outside core cities. They want a cheaper place to live. They work from home. They school from home sometimes. They work out at home. They have a bunch of stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that trend's not going anywhere. And then technological trends is we're getting a little more efficient with the way that we can manage because
your self-storage and your mobile home park.
That's right. And small bay. I mean, because
bay.
now everybody knows how to use a QR code.
Oh, nice.
Put in the work order, and we don't have to have that manager all the time eating up payroll.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if you know this. I had an interview with a gentleman, an economist here, and he said that in the last 4 years, 80% of the U.S. currency has been created. Up till 2020, only 20% of the currency has been created.
What?
That we've created 80% since then under the Biden administration. It's not a political statement, but yeah, it is. But anyway, so, I mean, inflation ain't going away. They say it's going down. I'm not sure I'm buying it, honestly.
No way.
But they have to say it is because they have to drop rates or we're going to really have a problem.
That's right.
So
owning hard assets, right?
That's the thing. See, because with inflation, rents are going up too.
That's it.
The rents aren't going to go down. They've stabilized a little bit right now, but I think they're going to continue to shoot up. So if you lock in a property, even if you slightly overpay a little bit at this point, the debt's locked.
That's it.
So the debt's not going up, but your rent's going up. And guys, if you haven't heard this, your value of the property is based on a multiple of the net income. Okay, you divide the cap rate into the net income, and that's how you get the value, and it's exponential. Typically, like for every dollar in income, it's $17 to $20 in increased value. So, real estate's the way to go right now with inflation, for sure.
Yeah, and like now in my 40s, I'm in this next quarter or phase of my career where I had to get those wins to continue to graduate into a bigger asset class or a bigger property.
Yeah.
And then that helped me leverage more. And as a value add investor,
Right.
I was able to just accelerate the value add by building up an organization around that. So I think that the two things that are really important that I was talking to Hannah about the other night is I think sometimes people, they forget that you're either a real estate investor or you own a real estate business that invests. And there's a big difference there because the investor doesn't really want to deal with, you're allocating capital to the highest yield, right? And you're making investor decisions.
Right. Well, that's like a passive investor.
That's right.
That's you raise money, I raise money. That's the passive investing route. And then there's the operators like you and I that'll raise the money and actually do the heavy lifting.
And exactly. And I just think sometimes even myself, I have to put both hats on.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, sure.
It's like,
sure.
where am I going to
invest in our deals and all that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people forget that it's such a hands-on business with value add that it's just like you're running a business. That is what this is.
It is. It's a business, and that's why you need that EOS system. And when you present a property, you've got a business plan. It's like any business, and a property has to have a business plan as well. And now you wrote a book called Finding Your Edge.
Yes.
Okay. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I love the title. I mean, so it's got a motivational component to it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Like the principles I learned along that journey.
Love it. You didn't bring me a copy though, you cheap bastard.
You're getting one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, brother, it's been a real treat to see you here, and it's been way too long.
Yeah.
But no, you added a ton of value today. So guys, check him out. It's patriotholdings.com, and thanks for coming in, bud.
Yeah, man. Thanks. It's great. Thank you for having me.